Hey guys, Saf coming at you with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Now, Hellhades is away at a wedding today, and of course, when Hellhades is away, Playroom decides now is the best day to drop some news. They did this when Hydra was coming out, he was moving house. So, unfortunately for some people, you've got me giving you the latest news and information. Other people might find that an improvement. Don't tell the boss man. So, the information I have for you today is more champion balances coming up in 5.70, which will be the next patch that we get sometime probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Now, it's good to see that Playroom have continued updating and rebalancing some champions. And this mix of champions, we've got some really good quality of life fixes to some of the dated champions. And there is also a special mention to the one and only, the ruler of all void legendaries, the terrible champion. If you're in the club, we feel for you. We have some buffs to Jing Wong. So let's go through the list and let's see what they have changed. And I will give you my opinions on whether or not I think this is the right direction or whether more could be done. So first up on the list is Lord Shazaar. Not many changes happening here. All we have is an increased damage. They don't specify how much to his cruel fate. This is the main ability that he does, his bomb. Now, obviously, Lord Shazaar can be played two ways. You can either play him for his bombs on his AoE, or you can play him for his A1, which does a huge amount of damage. It's similar to a Draco damage. If you put that in Clan Boss and there's lots of debuffs on the target, that really ramps up. But we've got an AoE adjustment, which is great. Would be nice to know if this also includes the bomb damage or not. So that will have to wait until the game is updated and then we can get some data mining. But Cruel Fate is getting a damage increase. The next champion on the list is Venus. Now, Venus, obviously, very good champion for Hydra, very good generally all round. AoE, decreased defense and weaken. We've got AoE, HP burn, and we've got some poisons. Pretty much a starter kit for a champion in the early to mid game, and then you can specialize her in different places. What are they doing to Venus? So, what they're doing is a quality of life fix. A void legendary should be guaranteed to place their debuffs, especially one as not so important in terms of strength as HP burn. Yes, it does a lot of damage, but it's not, it's not a warlord level kind of skill here. This is now going to be a 75% chance base, which will book up to 100% chance. So there's a guaranteed HP burn on all enemies for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. That is huge for somewhere like Hydra. The next thing to note with Venus is what they've also changed is not necessarily her kit, but they've changed some things with Cupidus, so we're going to have a look at him next. So I recently pulled Cupidus, which is kind of nice. At the time, it was a bit like, okay, I might have a use for him in Hydra. Cupidus is kind of really strong, but also not strong at the same time. People forget when he's paired with Venus. I think it's Venus can do this. Her passive with Cupidus is she will remove all buffs from all enemy and then has a 50% chance to get an extra turn. That's a kind of a crazy skill to have if you can fit Cupidus in the team. Often in Arena, the challenge is can you fit a Venus and a Cupidus in the same team when you've got an option like Madame Ceres and other champions. The other thing with Cupidus is he kind of just got a bit like outscaled from 2019. That's when he first came out. So we've got some changes here to Cupidus, and this is what we're going to have a look at. The first change we've got is Flames of Passion. The first thing they've done is they've increased damage. That's great. Now you might be thinking, okay, well, it's still a random hit. That's terrible. Well, the news is they've also changed it from a attacks 3 times at random to attacks all enemies. They've also made it a 75% chance to place HP burn. Now, it's a bit weird in the sense you're thinking, well, isn't this the same skill that Venus does? Yes, that is true. However, you've now got 2 AoE 100% chance HP burns on a 4-turn cooldown. This is amazing for Hydra. The other thing they've changed is his passive. So Cupidus has this sort of damage stimulus where he will inflict 25% more damage if a target is under a debuff. Well, they've changed this now in 2 ways. The first thing they've changed is it will now inflict 25% more damage when Venus is on the team. That is just a straight damage boost, which means anytime he hits something, he's going to be effectively having a built-in weaken to all of his abilities. The other thing they have changed is he's going to counterattack whenever he is attacked. So if you put Venus on a team with Cupidus, he has built-in counterattack, and his counterattack is an AoE. And in Hydra, that's really strong. Remember the first kind of teams that came out in Hydra where people were basically abusing the deterrence mastery and everything before they bug fixed it. Cupidus is one of the A1s that used to go in there. 15% extra damage if they have a debuff on top of the 25% damage he has on his passive now. That's a 35% damage increase generally. and he's got some books in there as well. Cupidus changes, potentially really quite big for somewhere like Hydra. You might find some usage in Arena. If you've got a Cupidus and you've got a Venus, these changes are great. Next up on the list is an old school champion, a really, really old school champion. Probably you never see this champion in any team because he just has been so power crept. It's actually quite a shame because for a long time, until Countess Lix came out, he was the only champion that could do an AoE, block active skills, which was 100% chance. And there were certain champions such as Bistophus that you needed that ability. It is a powerful PvE debuff, not so much in PvP because it can be cleansed away. It doesn't really do the warlord effect where you just put him on cooldown. It is the debuff variant, but it is still very powerful. The problem with Lugan was he was kind of a protector, but everything was a bit clunky. It was a long cooldowns, and his attacks were kind of like, you know, one was based on attack, one was based on HP. Is a legacy kind of champion, and it needed updating. So in this update, we've got some changes. Firstly, Bodyguard, which is his ally protection and increased defense on himself. That is now going from a 5-turn unbooked to a 4-turn unbooked. So that means you're going to get a 3-turn cooldown, 2-turn ally protect for everyone, and an increased defense on himself for 3 turns. So that guarantees he always has increased defense. That's quite a nice change. It would have been nice to have increased defense on all allies, but I think potentially maybe that's a bit strong. But then again, when you think, you know, Tyrant, you think of Vasulf the Grim, they do increase defense and ally protect at the same time. So it would have been nice to have that, but I think generally that's a good quality of life change. They've also changed his Mark of Silence to be HP based. So everything can be driven through HP, which is nice. You don't need any attack. I still think it's not good enough. You're going to get 25% heal on all damage he inflicts, but he's HP based, so he's not going to do a tremendous amount of damage. That would have been nice if that was like a 10% of their HP or something, just a flat heal. This is nice ability, but again, like, it's not better than, say, Kyoku's ally protection. It's not better than, say, Vasulf or Tyrant. You know, if you were playing the game when Vasulf came out, you're probably going to use him over this guy because Vasulf will give everyone an increased defense, which helps just generally for everyone. The block active still is pretty good. If you don't have a Countess Lix, it's quite useful to have, but it is a 4-turn cooldown, and it does need a fair amount of books. So Lugan is a nice move, but I still think more is needed. I don't think he's quite there yet. We also have a minor update to one of my favorite nukers that I use quite a lot, Konstantin the Dayborn. He is probably one of the few champions that can get close to Trunda. And by close, I mean he's still about 20% off her damage numbers. But he is probably a tier above most of the other nukers. He is Void. He's stronger than Ethos for an AoE nuke. And he has quite a lot of useful utility. He's got a Phoenix like A1. He doesn't block revive, but it hits quite hard. He'll do a double hit. He has got quite a unique ability on his A3 I quite like. He'll throw any debuffs off himself back onto an enemy. Even if that enemy's got block debuffs, he'll just throw debuffs away. It helps keep him, you know, those decreased defense and decreased attack off him. He will throw that away first, which means you can't debuff his decreased attack with this. If he kills an enemy, this comes back off cooldown. So it's great to kind of like annihilate the Duchess if you can control the team, and then you can AoE nuke if you want to. The change we've got here is basically his passive. The biggest problem with this guy was he had really weird faction mechanics, and it just didn't make much sense. And you had to use it with Vlad the Nightborn. So you're committing 2 champions effectively to enable a powerful thing, which is block revive. Often when you're doing Arena, you know, there's Sifis, there's Duchess, there's lots of champions out there that can revive. And unless you've got an ability that kind of can either have a double AoE like Trunda, or you can block revive, then you end up in a situation where, okay, they hit really hard, but they haven't got that kind of utility they need to be a top tier nuker. So the change they're making here is the passive. He will now always block revive enemies from Undead Hordes, Demon Spawn, and Night Revenant. If he is then used with Vlad, it will be all enemies. Now, this is quite a big change. The reason why is Undead Horde, Demon Spawn, Night Revenants. Let's take a look at which faction champions those are. In Demon Spawn, we have your Duchess. We have your Wither the Crown. We have Mortal Macabre. We have Prince Kaimar. These are meta. Candrathon. These are meta arena top tier champions. If you block revive, the Withish can't heal. If you block revive the Candy, you take away the enemy's win condition. We have also got in the Undead Hordes, Sifi, Rotus. We have got, I think, Necret the Great, massive, massive one. He might not be able to nuke through a Necret, but he can one-shot the Necret probably. And if the Necret dies, it can't be revived. That helps you a lot. And I think the other one was Night Revenants. Not such a strong one, but still, Hegemon. Soulless. You see some Soulless nukes. So you're looking at factions where there are meta champions. And what this is going to mean for Konstantin, he already hits pretty hard because of his A2. If you've got decreased defense out there and then elite or block active skills, he's going to ignore 10% defense for each one of those that are out there. So you probably always have a 10% ignore defense on top of Savage, on top of Hell Smasher. This A2 really hits hard and it can double hit. So it deals with things like Rotus. It deals with things such as those passives. Obviously, reaction is still a counter. Stone skills still counter. You know, the typical things you find in Arena. But the fact his passive now will block revive the meta factions without requiring Vlad is quite a big change. And then obviously if you want to use the Vlad, you get the 50% turn meter reduction that Vlad does, and he will block revive every enemy. Really good change. That's more like what we want to see. I don't mind faction specific ones as long as they're not conditional based on another champion. I still don't like them. I still prefer it to be more at least alliance driven. But at least, you know, I think it's a major improvement for Konstantin, and he'll find even more usage in my teams. And finally, the last champion. This one is a big one. Even though I don't think these changes are still enough, it's still a big one. It is Jing Wong. If you have pulled a Jing Wong, commiserations. He is an exclusive club of people who feel really hard done by getting a Void Legendary, even though he's barely a Legendary to start with. Currently, the reason why he is so negatively rated is he doesn't really specialize and do anything better than other champions. And what he does do is not good enough that he would take up a slot in any team. What do I mean by this? So A1 transfers a random debuff from this champion to a target. So you can't necessarily get rid of this debuff you don't want. So like you've got block active skills. Say like it is a decreased defense. Like you can't pick. So it's going to pick one. When we compare that to someone such as Lissandra will transfer all debuffs from all allies, from all debuffs to an enemy target. And she is not void. Problem 1. Problem 2 with Jing Wong. His A2. He'll attack a single target. And then he's got when booked, 100% chance of increasing the duration of 2 random debuffs by 1 turn. And then he will place a 1-turn block active skills if the target is under decreased accuracy and decreased crit damage. So this is like a multifaceted problem here. Firstly, it's single target. Secondly, it's 2 random debuffs. Thirdly, he will only place the debuff then if he's got 2 other debuffs. And those 2 other debuffs are generally low value in certain scenarios. The nice thing was it was a two-turn cooldown. So, you know, you could think of this and say, okay, well, that's great. It's 2 turns. You can really increase the duration. The problem is, you know, if you want to use it in someone like Bommel, the one you can't afford to lose is the decreased accuracy. And if he doesn't extend the decreased accuracy because he's extended the decreased attack and a block buffs, you got a problem. So that's problem 2 with him. The other problem is the AoE is HP based, so he doesn't deal any damage. He's not really putting any buffs out to your team. He only does it to himself. And the decreased accuracy and decreased crit damage are low value generally in most places. He does have a cool passive which makes him immune to things. And he has a cool passive where he can basically remove any control debuffs that are placed on an ally. But it's single target and it's a 6-turn cooldown of 4 turns when booked. So it kind of makes it useless. The other thing to note about the debuff extension, if you've been playing the game for a while, you're going to get a champion called Dark Kale. Dark Kale will extend the debuffs on all enemies, and it will extend all debuffs by 1 duration. So you've got a free, epic, magic champion that is effectively doing what that skill that Jing Wong has way stronger. So that's basically the problem with Jing Wong. Let's have a look at what they've changed. Does it solve the problem? So it's quite a big change they've done. They've changed pretty much every part of his kit nearly. Doom Exchange, his A1. This is now going to transfer all debuffs from the champion to the target. It's going to do what Lissandra does. That makes sense. A Void Legendary should do, you know, should be stronger than a Spirit Legendary. Does it really make a big difference? No, but you could find usage in someone like Griffin. If you know, Griffin will throw the debuffs on you. You can throw it straight back. Could be annoying in Arena. It's a nice utility. It's nothing special. The other change they've made is Compound Calamity. So they have now changed this to B. It has a 75% chance of increasing the duration of all debuffs on the target by 1 turn. Perfect. That's what we want to see. He is now going to have a 2-turn extension. It's on a cooldown that's going to extend all debuffs by 1 turn. So you could probably run him in a 2-1 in somewhere like Clan Boss or against Bommel or in something, and really keep those debuffs running quite nicely. It's not as strong as Vizier still. However, it's guaranteed to extend. You pair him with maybe a Dark Kale and you're going to quickly see those debuffs keep ticking up and keep going. So that's really, really important. We've also changed the second part. Also places a block active skills debuff for 3 turns instead of 1 turn if the target is under decreased accuracy or decreased crit damage debuff. There's still the condition of the decreased accuracy and decreased crit damage debuff, so you still got to get that on there first. But 3 turns is quite a long time. It means basically as long as he can sustain the decreased accuracy and decreased crit damage debuffs, he's always going to put that out as well. So in a PvP setting, if you can lock down a champion, you can basically disable his skills pretty much permanently. Nice change. I think that means he could have some potential usages now in Bommel. He does have a decreased accuracy and he does have an extend, and those decreased accuracy and extends are on a pretty good cooldown. So you can't necessarily throw the bombs back because once you've taken the bomb, you can't get rid of it. But you can certainly keep the decreased accuracy out much better, and it gives you an option if you didn't get to Tora and you don't have something like Whirlim and a Vizier combo. If you want to run this, there's at least a use for him now. The final change we've got in Jing Wong then is his passive, Unchained. He is now still immune to all those effects. Those remain the same. We now have a new second part of his passive. At the end of each turn, removes all fear, true fear, freeze, provoke, sleep, stun, and petrification. So the same debuffs from all allies, and places a block debuff for 1 turn on all allies who have debuffs removed. Now, this is an interesting passive. I don't know whether they've removed the cooldown. If they remove the cooldown from this passive, Jing Wong's value in PvP goes up dramatically, because it basically means if you want to hard control someone, he will stop it every single time because you can't control him and he will cleanse it off everyone. Certainly on a go second option, you have a one-time thing if the cooldown remains. I don't know necessarily whether he changes the top of arena meta, but he certainly gives people more options for go second in a control setting. He also gives you some interesting options in Clan Boss. Obviously, the Clan Boss will place a stun. He could remove that debuff from the champion now with this ability. And then what you're also getting is an extend debuff on that Clan Boss to something like Poison. The damage is not going to be great, I'll be honest. There's nothing else in his kit. But if you're in early to mid game and you're looking for just some more regularity or control in your Clan Boss, you need someone to get rid of that stun, he looks like a much better option than he ever has been. So in terms of those changes, do I think it's actually enough for Jing Wong? I still think he's a little bit weak. He's HP based, which is, keep him alive, but he doesn't do any damage. The debuffs, decreased accuracy and decreased crit damage, are not exactly something to shout home about, although decreased accuracy is quite nice. He does strengthen himself. It would have been nice if he strengthens everyone, to be honest. I'm pretty sure Sigmund the High Shield is an AoE strengthen with an AoE shield, so I don't really see why we can't have that on a Void Legendary. The big thing for Jing Wong, does he still have a 4-turn cooldown? Or is that better? Even a 1-turn cooldown makes a huge difference. 4-turn cooldown basically makes it so that this second part, unless you can guarantee you can kill people after you manage to take a turn, is virtually useless because they're just going to reapply everything again. Especially if it's against a Kaimai, he's just going to reset skills, he's going to go again. There you go, guys. Changes. Lots of cool champions. Cupidus, Venus looks like a great combo for Hydra. We've got Jing Wong buffs, we've got some quality of life buffs to Lugan, and Konstantin is going to keep those enemies dead. We probably will be having more news, I'd have thought. Hero's Path, we're waiting for when it's going to come out, when it's going to go live. That is definitely on the card somewhere. But if there's anything else today, I will drop a video and I'll let you all know. And obviously Hellhades will be back tomorrow when there is more news, and he will be pulling shards on stream. So if you guys want to get involved with that, you want him to pull your shards for you, just drop him a DM. So that's the end of the video, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you like this content, and I will catch you in the next video.